Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's wonderful Wisdom Circle presented by Sacred You. My name is Christ May, and I am very excited for today's topic, which is being you, living life authentically. And I think this topic is very important, especially in today's world. And our facilitator for today is the only Jennylee Taylor. Jenny, thank you for joining us today. And with us are the incredible women from all over the world. And I am so excited to hear their wisdom for today's topic. And without further ado, I will now hand over to Jenny. And I will see you at the end, Jenny, and everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christ May. Welcome, beautiful women, again to our second Wisdom Circle on this topic. Last month we opened the topic about being you and living life authentically, and we had a beautiful conversation. Laura was on last month, I remember, and really opened up, what it means to live authentically and being you. And some of the things we covered were not striving for perfection, that it's okay to be imperfect and messy, just to show up for yourself, how you can be amazing without being liked by everyone else, and how lots of us are recovering people pleasers or recovering perfectionists. So it was a great way to open the topic. And this month, I actually want to dive into that a little more deeper with you beautiful women who are on here and anyone else who's listening afterwards. So I might start by just inviting you to introduce yourselves, what you do, and a little bit about yourself. And I'm just going to go around the screen as I see it. So Nikita, I think you're from the UK, aren't you, Nikita? Would you please
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I'm born and brought up in the UK, but my journey actually took me back to my motherland in India, which is where my parents are from. And I ended up spending 10 years there learning yoga, meditation, really diving deeply into understanding who I am on a soul level. And now I'm really blessed to be able to share this with others.
Thanks, Nikita.
Thank you.
And Sallyann?
Hello, everybody. My name's Sallyann Joy from Elevating Consciousness. This is so appropriate, this topic, because I support people in remembering who they are. All my life, I have felt that I just did not fit in here at all. I felt like a square peg in a round hole, and I couldn't work out why. And being able to understand who I truly am, living my authentic self. And I found that so empowering. And then being able to support others on their individual journeys to do the same. It's my passion, absolute passion. And I'm from Australia, North Coast, New South Wales. Thank you.
Welcome, Sallyann. Dawn.
Hello, thank you, Jennylee. I'm really honored to be here today. I live in Oregon, which is in the United States, and I help individuals navigate different losses, transition, grieving events. And I came to do this work. I've been a nurse for 30 years, but I was noticing that my patients were really suffering from physical health issues after some trauma and different loss events in their life. And I'd done so much of my own personal growth work after a painful divorce and going through difficult things in my childhood that I thought, well, I would really like to help other people thrive and find joy again. So that's why I do what I do today.
Beautiful. It's one of the reasons that a lot of us come to this work, isn't it? Our own personal journey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, hello again.
Hello, and I am so happy to be back here and excited to hear what everybody has to say about this. So my name is Laura, and I'm a physician assistant in psychiatry as well as a habit coach. I especially love working with people who have body-focused repetitive behaviors like hair pulling and skin picking because I struggled with many years with hair pulling. And similar to what Dawn said, I had been on my own journey and figured this out and realized that the things that helped me manage my own hair pulling actually work for any unwanted habit at all. And so I help people overcome those unwanted habits. And I am from Ohio, well, Cincinnati, Ohio / Northern Kentucky, which is in the United States.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Laura. Hi, Joanne. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne Irwin. I'm also from the far north coast of New South Wales, near Sallyann. And I'm similar, very similar. It's been a lifetime of working out who I am and my own identity in the world, and through my, series of traumas and experiences that we've all had. I've navigated that through my, health and wellness and nutrition and spiritual connection. So it's been a long journey, 40 years, and we're still going. It never ends, right? But yeah, I empower women to find themselves and live the life that they love. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Beautiful, Joanne. Thank you. Denise, hi.
Hi, yeah, Denise here. Yeah, like Joanne, the same, it's been, I'm turning 60 next month, so it's 60 years of really learning to see myself, because it's always been a time of trying to understand the world around me and not trying to understand myself or see myself or love myself. So it's been the last 40 years of really looking at me. And it sounds so selfish, but it's not. It's really trying to unpack who I am and taking off everything, the labels and everything. So I love helping people do the same. I love them stripping them back. Oh, that sounds terrible. It's a journey and a discovery of themselves in self-healing themselves, because we are magnificent beings. And every one of us has that ability to do that for ourselves. It's just that we've forgotten it. So, yeah, that's me.
It's the remembering, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks, Denise. Welcome. And Sharon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jennylee, for having me. This is my first time here. I'm thrilled to have this conversation with all of you beautiful ladies. My name is Sharon Vidano. I am a retired criminal defense attorney here in the United States. I'm in Southern California, and I have since retired, transitioned to now a transformational life coach. I help high-performing women really live fulfilling lives when it comes to career and love. And this really started from my own journey. And this is my why I do this is I think most of my life, because of my childhood and cultural traditions and everything under the sun, I did everything I should have been doing. And it's all the shoulds. And I think most of that time I kind of ignored what my soul was screaming at me, ultimately screaming at me, and I ignored it until I finally listened. And that's in relation to career and relationships as well. So I'm thrilled to be here. I grew so much, and I know that, I can help other ladies, and they can really tap into what is in their hearts and what they would love to do. And they have that power to live that life. So.
Beautiful. I think we're on a great start. We're all on the same page on this. So I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jennylee Taylor. I live in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. And I also came to this work through my own spiritual emergency, I'm going to call it. And 30 years in the shipbuilding industry, only woman on the job, that kind of thing. And just asked myself at 50, did I want to be doing this at 60? And said no. And I've just turned 60, Denise. So I retrained and now I help people, I help women and men, because I find the men are just as out of sorts as the women at times, to really come back and find out who they are. And, you know, one of the main things that I hear in my work is people come in and they sort of slump down in the chair and they go, oh, I just want to be me. Why can't I just be me in my workplace, in my family, with my friends, you know, and it's a real issue when you just when people are saying that. So it's definitely been my journey, and which is why I'm passionate about this topic. The modality I work through mainly is breath work. Okay, so like I said, last month we had a really beautiful conversation and dived into some of the aspects of, you know, being seen, allowing yourself to be seen, getting over shame and judgment, and a whole heap of other things that you might remember, Laura. And this month I just want to go a little bit deeper because I'm doing a series of these in the Wisdom Circle. So each time just sort of digging a little bit deeper what's underneath. And I want to just bring to everyone's awareness this concept of us having 5 bodies. We're not just the mental mind is where most of us live most of the time. Typically, we have our mental mind, but we also have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a spiritual body, and we also have an energetic body. And when all of these bodies aren't in alignment with each other, then we kind of life gets a bit crazy at times. And what I've noticed in my work is that people typically will focus on one or the other. You know, wellbeing practices, particularly in workplaces, will focus on the physical body with, you know, gym memberships and all sorts of things. But now there's more emphasis in Australia on emotional and mental support through the mental health programs and things like that. But the invitation today is to start the conversation and just feel into any of those for yourself and which ones you'd like to talk about, or none of them, if you've got something else that you wanted to share. And we might just go around and so the questions are, you know, what have you seen in your own personal life around coming into alignment or being out of sorts in terms of being you and being authentic to yourself? What do you see with others? And then at the end we might get to some tips and things like that. So is that okay with everyone? Yeah. So let's start with you, Nikita. Is there a particular area you found yourself out of sorts or?
Yeah, so I actually got diagnosed with a chronic illness in my mid-20s. I'm 40 now. And it came out of the blue because I was like a non-smoker, I was a vegetarian, I was practicing yoga every day and breath work. And so I thought that I was healthy. And suddenly I was faced with a major lung surgery. And then I was diagnosed with an incurable autoimmune disease. And it was such a shock to my mind. And it made me kind of inquire as to there must be more to this. Like, yes, medically, it's lung, it's autoimmune, but what is it really? And that's when I started looking for holistic healing. And I came across Reiki. Most of you are probably familiar with energy healing. And it was through the practice of Reiki that I started healing myself. But what I found is that it wasn't enough to just heal my body. It wasn't enough to just heal my chakras, my energy channels. It had to be mindset as well. And as I said, I didn't think that there was anything wrong with me. I was a happy-go-lucky person. I was very positive. I'd had a fairly good childhood. I didn't have any known trauma. But when I started studying neuro-linguistic programming, that's when I really started to dive into the subconscious mind. And I realized that I actually had so many blockages. So for me, it's not about healing just the body or just the mind. I think in some cases of counseling, coaching, they focus only on mindset. And then in other practices, they focus only on the body, on nervous system regulation. But I actually think it's the combination of both that leads to miracles. And since I've been doing that with my clients, I have found people to completely cure medical illnesses, although I never claim that I can do that. You know, it's just a an outcome, if you like. You know, even things like depression, you know, I've seen people come off antidepressants, anxiety, IBS, like so many conditions I've seen people heal. And then it's not just physical conditions, but it's that rewiring of the mind. It's about training the mind to be able to serve us rather than, you know, work against us. So that's been my experience, and I've really enjoyed, and I still enjoy working with clients as well. But what I find is people have to be open. The more open they are, the more transformation can take place.
Beautiful, thank you. And the question that came to mind around that was, what are the main mental thoughts that people have that actually stop them from being themselves that you
So
found?
the thought and the language patterns that prohibit us, if you like, are things like I have to, I should, I need to. It's all these small, like, words that actually hold us back. And so, what I do in my coaching with my clients is I catch them out when they say those words, you know. And it's only when people become aware that they actually then switch. So it's about transforming those limiting beliefs into empowering ones, but it all starts with the thoughts.
The shoulds are like a have to, aren't they? But when you can change it into a choose to or a could, it's more like a choice rather than a have to. And having choice is empowering. Yeah,
Exactly.
great. Does anyone want to follow on from that? I could call you out, or you could just volunteer.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I love that. I should all those, and it's like it's like we see ourselves, and it's like I can say those things, but what do I add on the end of it? It's like I should be doing this, but it's okay because I know I'm going to get to it. Because what we say, it goes in. So if I'm putting a positive on the end of it, it means that the positive I end on is the part that actually goes in. So I'm negating or minusing the first comment that I made, which is beautiful. And for myself, it was always a lot of, like I said in my intro, it was always about trying to understand everything around me and outside of myself, and never bringing it back to me. So all my growing up had loads of trauma, but I just thought it was part of the process of growing up, because that's what I grew up with. That's what love was shown to me as. So I never knew it any other way. And it was when I was growing up and then having my own children, always considering life can't just be this. But I just, just followed what life was supposed to. This is how life is, because this is what I was taught. So following that, to be a mother, to be a wife, to be all those things, and thinking that all the trauma comes with that. And it was only until I had an incident with my oldest child that it woke me up to go, no, it just can't be like this. This is me doing this to me, because I'm not paying attention to myself. I'm paying attention to what the world wants me to do, everything around me, the conditioning that wants me to do, instead of going, well, no, what do I want? Who do I want to be? Who am I? And that's taken, and it is a lifetime journey. It's taken me all my life to not even figure, to feel who I am. Because we're taught to go mentally and to look at everything mentally, but we're not taught to, well, what does that feel like? What is my heart saying about that? What's the inner essence of myself actually crying out for? So that's what I go to with my clients, and that's what I've been doing with myself, and uncovering. And there's loads of masks, programs, all that sort of stuff that allows us to see ourselves, because all those things that we have been through allows us to see the essence of ourselves, to see, I'm not trusting. I can't trust the world. Well, I'm actually not trusting myself. So I've got to trust myself that I can go out to the world and be myself. You know, what is love to me? Well, it's what I was taught, but that's not the love I want. So what does love look like for me? And it's just that unpacking. And, you know, when you say about feeling, I can feel all that in my body. My body gives me all these knocks and pokes and everything to say, hey, are you listening? Because this is where I'm living.
Yeah. It's a great, you know, when you talked about having the roles we all have, one of the exercises I love to do for myself occasionally and for the people I work with is actually to take all those hats off. And what does it feel like when you actually take all those hats off, being a mother, a friend, an auntie, you know, a cousin, a person at work, all that, and you can just sit there in your own self. And the first time I did it, it was kind of like a little bit scary, let's say, because you got nothing to hide behind. Yeah. Thank you for that, Denise.
Yeah.
And Sallyann, would you like to speak on an aspect of being you?
Thank you so very much. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I've always felt like a square peg in a round hole. And I'm sort of vision impaired. And when I was born, I was told I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, whatever. And so I stayed within a little box and I shut myself down through my life, didn't take my chosen career because I was told I wouldn't be able to do it, and gave up on who I was. And I actually developed some physical symptoms too. I developed some heart issues because I wasn't living authentically and I was not being myself. And then around 2001, I have what I call my semi-trailer years that have been basically hit by a truck in a big way. Around that period, and a couple of years around that, lost several family members, lost a business, marriage broke up. It all pretty much happened at once. Felt profoundly alone. And then I started realizing I was more than this physical. I was a spiritual being just having a physical journey. So I studied various things, got my Reiki masters, became a qualified counselor, did lots of other energy healing practices over the next few years, learned a technique that I support others with now to work from the heart center and utilize the heart for healing of the body and the energy fields. And so doing that and being authentic with who I truly am and owning that I'm not just the physical, I'm the physical, I'm also a spiritual being. And during that period, yes, I felt so profoundly alone, but then realizing I had connections elsewhere other than being here. And there was so much support. And whilst that was that around 2000 was a very, very dark period in my life, so many gifts came out of it. So many people came forward to assist me in various ways, physically, spiritually, and there was so many gifts that came out of it. And I realized I was way stronger and way more powerful than I had ever could imagine. And I started living my authentic self. And I went on to start supporting others to do the same, teaching energy healing, and supporting people through counseling and various other ways. And this is what I do now. And I really, it's wonderful to hear people sharing, because I think our personal experiences assist in making us who we truly are. And if we can take the learnings, the gifts, the support, the understandings out of that, and if we can bring that forward, then move forward and support others on their healing journeys, I think that is a really beautiful thing. And doing that holistically, yes, there is the 5 bodies, way more than the physical, and we can keep our bodies balanced and look at strategies to keep all our bodies balanced so we can have a holistic rewarding, loving life. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sallyann. Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that they're the only people in the world who aren't feeling like themselves. So when we can share in this way, it really gives others permission as well as ourselves to grow as well. Thank you. Laura, I would invite you to come in and talk. And one of the things that really resonated with me when we spoke last time was how this concept of owning the things that are coming to the forefront and wanting to make changes around that. And I think you're a brilliant example of doing that. Can you speak a bit and just share what you would like to share?
Yeah. So, yes, I am really big on owning what's yours and putting down what is not yours. And so I think one of the areas that the two areas that stand out the most to me are the emotional as well as the energetic bodies. And they really tie together for me because I found when I was able to strengthen my emotional body, that helped me set better boundaries for myself, and be involved in the things that I wanted to be involved in and give my energy to those things and not give my energy to the things that weren't serving me. And so emotionally, you talked about, kind of owning things, right? And so one of the things that I often talk to clients about is, what other people do, that's entirely about them, and what we do is entirely about us. And when we look at the world through that lens, we really empower ourselves to make changes. Whenever we are saying that we feel this way because somebody did this thing to us or because this circumstance out there is what it is, we really strip ourselves of our power and we say, well, I can't do that because, I didn't create it. I didn't, have a role in it. But when we can step into it and say, no, I'm going to own my role in this, or I'm going to own my emotions. Sometimes it's running from emotions. It's not necessarily blaming things on other people or situations, but it's trying to shove off these emotions that we don't want. And so I really encourage people to lean into emotions. I mentioned that I work in psychiatry, and in psychiatry and psychology, there's so much work being done around how do we change our emotions into something that they're not, right? CBT has really kind of taken hold and it's popular. And while I think that CBT has many great things, there's also an aspect of it that says, oh, you feel sad? Well, don't feel sad. Feel this way instead. And I think it's really important for us to say, no, I feel sad, and it's okay to feel sad. And what's going on around me that's contributing to that sadness? And how do I lean into this sadness and comfort myself through this sadness and say, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you, rather than, well, give me a positive affirmation or a pill or something like that to make the sadness go away. So for me, those are those are some of the ways that emotionally, I found that I've really grown, and that's been incredibly helpful for me. As I said, that helps me set those energetic boundaries to say, nope, this is mine or this is not mine. And how do I put my energy into the things that matter the most, and let go of the ones that don't? Because honestly, we hold on to so much stuff that's not ours that just drags us down. So I think owning our own stuff and setting down the stuff that's not ours are both really important.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Laura. I mean, the emotional body is one of the ones that people feel the most awkward about sitting with, isn't it? Because we're taught not to be emotional. We're taught to, stop crying, don't be a baby, stiff upper lip sort of thing and get on with life. Yet it's our body's natural way of regulating our system. If we don't emote and we don't have the opportunity to express our emotions, whether it's joy, fear, anger, sadness, grief, happiness, whatever it is, that's when we're doing a disservice to our body, and it can really affect our physical state as well and our physical health in the long term. I feel, Dawn, like this is a great segue into what you spoke about, what you did about sitting with emotions, particularly grief and things like that. Did you want to add something?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Laura, for everything you said, and Jennylee, you as well. Because I think so often, we hear in our mind all these things that were in childhood about you need to be strong and, pull up your big girl pants and you'll feel better soon. Or here, let me take you for ice cream. That's going to help you feel better. And those things teach us to suppress our emotions. And when we suppress our emotions, we become someone that we aren't meant to be. And I can look back at my own childhood and see that for many, many years, I did suppress my emotions because I heard things like, you're too sensitive. Don't be so sensitive. You shouldn't be upset about this. Well, that was me trying to be emotionally honest. But I was learning that it wasn't safe to be emotionally honest because people didn't want to hear how I felt. And so I did suppress those emotions. And it's like that tea kettle that you put a cork in and it can't let any steam out. And after a while, it just kind of explodes because it hasn't been able to release any of that pressure inside. And so, at the age of 30, I found myself divorced because I hadn't been able to process anything from my childhood that had happened that had emotionally impacted my heart. I just kept it pushed down. And it was at that point that I started my own personal growth journey and realizing that no, my emotions are important. I need to share these. I need to let them out because suppressing them is leading to anger. It's leading to problems in my relationships, things that I don't want to have happen in my life. And it wasn't until I started my grief work that I realized how many things and beliefs that I had learned earlier in life that were keeping me stuck. And once I was able to start being emotionally honest with other people is when my healing started. And some of those physical health issues that nobody could diagnose, they couldn't come up with anything after multiple tests, went away when I was able to be authentic with my emotions. And that's what I talk to all my clients about. And actually, everybody I come in contact with is that it's important to talk about how you feel. Your emotions are normal and natural, but we've been taught to keep quiet and to just keep moving on and keep busy. But those are the things that keep us stuck and lead to problems like addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, food, social media, shopping, whatever the addiction is. And then that harms our relationships in every aspect of our lives even more.
Yeah, absolutely true. And, when we block our emotions that people deem as negative, such as grief, sadness, all those things, we're also blocking the potential to have all the other good things as well. It's like we close down our hearts when we do that. And when we close down our hearts, we can't let love in, we can't let peace in, we can't let joy in to the degree that we actually could if we chose just to emote. And I think people get scared because they've had a lifetime of emotional suppression, that if they actually open the door, they might, the floodgates will come. And that feels really uncomfortable for people. And that might be true in the first instance, but imagine if you kept doing it, the floodgates are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The pressure against the damn wall keeps backing up and backing up, and then eventually one day it's going to pop, because it doesn't, just because we suppress our emotions doesn't mean that they actually go away. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Who haven't we heard from? Sharon, would you like to add to the conversation?
Yes, it's interesting that you mentioned about the floodgates, and I from my own journey, I pulled from that, and that's how I coach my clients as well. As now in my since I've been in the study, I strive to listen to the nudges, or like Gay Hendricks says, it's a touch of a feather, which once I notice the touch of a feather, that's when I say, this is something to look into and unpack. I did not do that in my early young 20s, or even in my childhood and in the teens. I did all the shoulds, which, these are things that we're, especially culturally where I am. I'm a second generation here in the United States. My parents immigrated from Korea and the Philippines. So there's the traditions of the Asian culture, especially when it came into the academics and social. There's a lot of shoulds. It's about, having the grades and don't act like this because it's not ladylike. And I had a lot of shoulds in there. And even though my parents, they loved me dearly, and I know they were only doing their best. But whenever I had that B+ was not good enough because it was too close to an A-, I always heard I wasn't good enough, no matter what I was doing. So those were the thoughts that I started to live by. And as I was not good enough, and then I ended up choosing a man who he was my college boyfriend. And don't get me wrong, we cared for each other, but there were a lot of feathers, nudges, whack to the head, even a ton of bricks, which throughout my whole lifetime, which basically said, this is not for you. It really isn't, and I remember at our first wedding, long story, that's another show. At our first wedding, I called off the wedding 2 weeks before the wedding because I was physically sick. And this was my inner spirit telling me, this is not for you, but I would not listen because it was so scary, and so scary to even think that that I was capable and worthy of more of what I would love. And when you don't listen to that nudge initially, it will turn into a ton of bricks to the point where your circumstances now becomes very huge, and it could also manifest itself physically. So throughout my journey, that's how I coach my clients. We now listen for the whispers and the nudges, and I give them the tools that it's okay when those fears pop up. Kind of like where you're talking about where the dam comes through. It's okay when those fears pop up, because that means you're actually about to grow. You're no longer in your comfort zone. And so it's a good thing. And that's the good news, that it's coming up and that you're no longer in your comfort zone. And of course, you love yourself through it, kind of like what you're saying. Don't suppress your emotion, love yourself through it and say, it's okay, you've got this. But when those thoughts are trying to keep me small, and mine are nasty, she's nasty, I tell her to shut up because she is nasty. And I just say, nope, I've got this. You have not served me all these years. So I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to love myself through this. And that's where that discipline and that support and love on yourself comes. So that's how I support my clients through career changes as well as relationships. And knowing that you can grow and you can love yourself through it, and it can be scary, and pushing past the should. Sometimes we don't even allow ourselves to ask ourselves, what is this feather that is nudging me? And then I've learned to ask yourself, what would I actually love? What would I love in this situation or this instance or in a relationship or in a career? Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to even ask that question. And I truly believe that when you ask that question, that is really connected to spirit. And I go here, that is connected to spirit, and it's a divine nudge. And that's where you can lean into that. So that's how I help my clients.
Amazing. Thanks, Sharon. And, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned through my personal journey is this concept of loving oneself. People, when you first say that to people, they go, oh, that means, you're full of yourself, or, how can I, you don't love other people if you love yourself. And, there's this thing around loving self, but really it's in that moment where you can truly come back to, I love who I am. I love how I think. I love my body as it is. I love my energy as it is. I love who I am in the moment all the time. And if I think I need to improve or change on something, that's okay. But it's about loving self. So Joanne, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah. Wow. Such a big topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, we could just talk all day, and I ditto to all the things that everybody has said before me. And that what just came to me then when you talked about with, self-love and how we treat ourselves is specifically in Australia, it's a very tall poppy syndrome approach, isn't it? And so we have to relearn all this stuff that we've been programmed, and do the work, do the deep work, and take radical responsibility, like Laura was talking about. Like, that's huge. But for me, I trace my mind back to when my road crash came And that was in 1987, I think, 87 or 88. 88. And when I was left 6 months pregnant with my fourth child, and this was my second marriage relationship, and all the things come up, all the trauma, all the wounds come up, not good enough, abandonment, all the things, and having to break it down. And I just, at the time, and I was 28, so I was immature in a sense. I'd been doing natural therapies, I'd been doing healing work and different things. But it's when things happen to us, for us, because it was obviously a blessing for where I am today, but all the things show up. And I fell into this pit of despair. So for me, it was the emotional toll that took me down first. And I remember, and this is the thing too, like, we are all here to support people going through whatever it is they're going through. And I believe that everybody needs support and guides from people that have been through it before us. And, all of you beautiful women here are there doing this work so that people can move through this stuff and find that self-love. So I'm sure everyone remembers Louise L. Hay. So working with the emotional body and the emotions that were coming up for me. And I started there, and the support around me was fantastic. Even when I didn't feel like it at the time, I was in this deep depression. And then by using her tools, we're always guided. I was guided to an opportunity that came into my life where I could work from home in the wellness industry, in the health and nutrition. And I was like, whoa. So that was my first little experience of, I guess, manifestation, right? Attracting to me what I really needed. And I was asking every day. I didn't believe it. I just thought, well, what have I got to lose? I'll just keep asking. And through that opportunity, there was nutritional supplements that gave me life force, that got me out of that mental state, the emotional state. And through that opportunity that I was able to be in contact with people and places and positive people around me, like Jim Rohn, the great Jim Rohn, that I'd sit with and learn from and saturate my mind. This is the mindset stuff. So it was almost like layers were coming in, and then the spirituality. Like I spent 7 years in different spiritual schools because I wanted to know more. And then the energetic body, right? And I think Nikita was talking about, when I found NLP in 2008, that was a game changer, because I was working with all these people as a coach, trying to change what they wanted to change. But I didn't understand. They'd reach their goals and they fall back into those old patterns. And it was these unconscious beliefs that were still driving them. So when I found NLP and hypnosis, that was a game changer. And rewiring those limiting beliefs is such a big one. And they still come up, like they're still there. We just have to catch them and turn them into more empowering beliefs. But that was where it's just been layers for me. And, my whole work's based around that, and just the consciousness through the heart, which I love what Sallyann does, and all of you probably do the same stuff. But I is just really, I'm reading Zero Limits at the moment by Dr. Joe Vitale. We have to continue, right? We have to continue to feed this what it needs. So not just the physical nourishment, which I think when you're talking about loving the body, yes, nourish it, give it what it needs, but also give the mind what it needs, because that's where the weeds are, yeah? And we can always be doing that work. So loving it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. One thing that struck me while you were talking was, all of this learning how to come back to yourself, how to get back into your body, how to start living a life where you're authentically you, it all starts with awareness, self-awareness. And, today we've talked about some things around the mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic bodies. And if I could give people one message around what you need to do next to start living an authentic life, it would be, number one, come back to, start being aware of yourself in all of those bodies. What are you thinking? How are you feeling? What are your emotions doing? How do you feel? Are you connected to your soul spirit? Are you doing work that you love to do? Are you saying yes to everyone else but saying no to yourself on a spiritual level? And energetically, where are your boundaries? So this concept of being aware, and of course, the way that I do that is coming back to your breath. So start having an awareness of how you're breathing every day, because your breath is really a reflection of what's happening in the rest of your system. So I might just go around and ask everyone to just share one tip. Where would you start if you were on this journey and could do it all again? Where would you start, or in the process of coming back to yourself? Because some people, the people feel so not connected to who they are, to go from here to here in one step is just too overwhelming. So we need to take little steps. Laura, would you like to start?
Yes, I'd love to. I think that the tip that I would like to share, like the overall idea is self-compassion. And how do we show up for ourselves with self-compassion, not judging these different parts of ourselves, but just accepting it, radical acceptance, and showing up. And so the kind of tip or way that I want to do that, because some people are so unfamiliar with this that they're like, I don't even know how to be kind to myself, right? Sometimes people they've been practicing those negative thoughts for so long. And so an exercise that I really like is a bit of parts work. And I imagine myself, whatever emotion is coming up for me, whether it's, sadness or fear or whatever it is, I imagine myself kind of sitting on a park bench next to my emotion. And I think, how do I comfort this emotion? How do I support it in the way that I would support a good friend? And not just emotions. I do this with my hair pulling. I consider my hair pulling to be one of those feathers, like Sharon was talking about. I used to really dislike it, and now I recognize, no, it's just a message that I'm out of balance. So how do I listen to it? So it can be a behavior or an emotion or whatever it is, but how can you sit next to that and comfort it and let it be there, let it speak if it needs to. So that's my tip. If people are having a hard time saying, like, where do I even start? That's one of my favorite exercises. Imagine you're sitting next to these emotions or these behaviors or whatever it is that you're wrestling with, and comfort it like you would a friend.
Right, that's beautiful. A beautiful tip. Thanks, Laura. And Nikita?
Yeah, I love that, Laura. I use parts work as well. And I guess it's based on the belief that each part of us is there for a reason. And so it's there to teach us something. And so it's forming communication with that part to ask it, what do you want to show me right now? And I think that leads on to my tip, which would be to teach people to listen to their intuition. I was very lucky. As a child, I used to say to my parents, like, I'm hearing voices in my head, like I have an imaginary friend, because I was so connected to my soul. My soul was always communicating with me. Once we went to America and we hired a car, and these were the days before, sat navs, and my dad was like, had this big map, and he didn't know which way to go, and I was directing him, and I was a child. And we ended up getting there. He listened to me, and we ended up getting there. And he said, how did you know? We're on the other side of the road, like we're in a new country. But I was so intuitive. And so I always assume that everybody else is so intuitive as well. So now as an adult, I'm surprised when I meet people and they say, intuition, what's that? My soul, what's that? I've never experienced my soul. I don't know how to listen to it. And so I think that we should be teaching children in schools how to listen to their intuition, because we're taught how to listen to our logical part of the brain, the rational part, the analytical part. But what about the intuitive part, the wise part? That's what my tip would be.
Beautiful. I love that, because it's, you know, our intuitive self is the thing that gets turned down first as a child. Hey? You know, don't be silly, all those sorts of things. Yeah. Thank you. Sharon, do you have a tip for us today?
I do. I think the first thing I would tell someone is to just really notice what you're noticing. So if you can notice that, if you can notice your breath, and you can notice that you're sitting here, and you can notice that you actually notice that you can actually notice your thoughts. And when you can notice your thoughts, that's the first thing that actually will influence your emotions, which will then influence your actions, which will then influence your results. So if you can notice what you're noticing, that's the very, very first thing. And then also to be mindful of your words, because your words are so powerful. When you say, I am broke, or I am fat, or I am ugly, that I am is a command to your soul almost. So why not notice what your thoughts are and say, that's not serving me. And then go to the empowering thought, I am beautiful, I am enough, I am worthy. And then move forward from that energy, because it's so powerful when you can actually come from that energy, because that version of you where you are living that desire, that dream that you have, is thinking very differently than the version of you who is feeling small and making decisions differently. So I would say always notice your thoughts, notice what you're noticing.
That's a really important, because you know, thought is creative at the end of the day, isn't it? And noticing your thoughts is where it all starts. And someone said before, catching that thought when you have it. So you go, oh, I'm thinking that, you know, I'm too fat, too ugly, can't do this, whatever, and changing it, and changing your state, taking a breath, changing a state around that. Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon. Denise.
Yeah, for me, it's allowing with my clients is you know, you're already perfect. You're already, there's an essence within you that you haven't found right now. So it is about paying attention. It is that awareness of what I'm saying and doing. And I think that is that, see what my energy feels like. Am I low today? What is it that's allowed me, or what have I come into that's made me feel this way? You know, sometimes we can walk into a room and our energy can drop. So we are an energetic being, and our energy is always dictated by our surroundings and what triggers me. So it's like someone might say something and I go, oh, that really irritates me. So what's the irritation about that? It's about just being loving and caring about yourself, as we are with children and other people in our lives, that we ask ourselves the questions. We ask ourselves, so why do I feel like that? Why is that making me feel that way? What is it that what they're doing that irritates me, that is within me? Because sometimes everything is a reflection for us to see ourselves. You know, we choose the partners, we have the partners and the people in our lives that might arc up, because that's something I need to look at myself. Our children are a perfect example for that. They will mimic you and throw back at you exactly how you are, for you to go, oh, I've got to look at myself here. But the trigger that is that we take it back out on them instead of us standing back. Oh, okay, where do I need to navigate myself to settle so I can bring the better part of myself? And and then come back to that, because sometimes we can't fall into the, oh, I've really got to look at this. Create space for yourself, create the time for yourself, so that nurture comes in for yourself to also allow us to see that and show our children that I love myself enough to have a path and create time for myself to reflect on myself, so they get to do that for themselves as well, because we are teaching and unlearning and relearning for ourselves, so we want that for our children. And the more that we do it for ourselves, our children will mimic that and take on the pieces that they need for themselves, instead of us enforcing a pattern or a way that we were brought up, that we become open, so they become open to share. And the more that we're open, we impart that on everybody else. So, you know, you are perfect as you are. It's just being aware of ourselves and loving and compassion and holding ourselves in that, whether it be for a day, a moment, a year. Sometimes, you know, I've held myself in a few years in something to go, oh, I now see what that was about. Oh, I now recognize that, but I'm still loving myself and caring for myself and holding myself in compassion and just searching the truth of myself through that.
Yeah, beautiful. There's lots of tips in there. I think, you know, the world is your mirror came up. Creating space is another great one. We actually need to stop every now and then and take a moment to check in on ourselves. Thank you. Dawn, do you have a tip for us today?
I do. You know, I think one of the really important things is to focus on loving ourselves. We are always the ones that beat ourselves up the most, although many times we can see the outside world and how they're reacting to us. But so many times we internalize everything. And, you know, we wish we would have said something different. We wish we would have done something different. And so along that path of loving ourselves, it's important to choose people in our life that love us unconditionally and that don't constantly judge us and criticize us and think that we should be something we aren't. And so I talk to people about finding your tribe, and your tribe can be one person or it could be a group of people. Those people that you know are always going to be there for you unconditionally, supporting you and, you know, listening without needing to give you advice or to criticize or judge you, but they just hold space, because those people allow us to be emotionally honest when we feel scared. We have fear about doing it because we've tried in the past and we haven't felt safe. We haven't felt heard. And so I think it's so important to have at least one person in our life that we know can be there for us, regardless of what we're going through, regardless of if it's a bad day or a good day. They'll celebrate our wins and they'll sit with us and allow us to cry and just talk about the bad days as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. And that tribe is all about them listening and not judging, that unconditional love, isn't it? Sometimes we just need to be heard, we don't need the advice.
Correct.
Because we you know, it's all about being authentic and we're being authentic in that moment. Thank you so much, Dawn. So we're coming very close up to the hour. So, and I've got Sallyann and Joe. If you could just give us a quick tip before I wrap up and ask Chris May to complete for us. Thanks, Sallyann.
Oops, thank you very much. And this has been such a wonderful conversation. My quick tip, I suppose, is be aware when you're going into the story. Stay away, you know, when you're being pulled into the story, pull yourself out of the story. Try and take 10 minutes a day to come back to your heart, connect with your heart, breathe in to your heart, breathe love into your heart and out, and fill your body with love. If you can do, and try and keep the thoughts out of that. So bring your focus on the heart, 10 minutes a day, a couple of times a day if you can do it, and just bring your awareness to your body, your heart space, your own space, away from the mind chatter, away from the story, and just be in the heart, breathing love into your heart, filling your body with love, and then sending that love out into your energy field so you're in a bubble of love. This energy of love will help you stay calm and grounded. Thank you.
Amazing. I love that. 10 minutes a day. And it's only 10 minutes when we think about it, but often it's all about that, creating that space as well. Thanks. And lastly, Joanne.
Yeah, I love that. I love all of your tips. They're amazing, and they're all yeah, very, very valuable. For me, it is about I have a very strong morning routine. How I start my day is how I end my day. And I know that's not practical for so many women. I know there's a few grandmothers in the room. We're grandmothers, and I have my grandchildren. Sometimes it's like that just goes out the window. So, but finding those times through the day, that 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just sit in stillness, because we don't sometimes notice what we're feeling until we take that time to just be still, right? Be in stillness, get out in nature. I'm in the beautiful country here. It's just so gorgeous. But yeah, take that time, even if it's at 5 minutes at lunchtime, if you're a working person, and just noticing how you're feeling, like noticing your thoughts, but also how you're feeling, and be okay with that. Just feel the feels and do it anyway. It's like feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear.
That's right. Feel the
And
feels
just,
and do it anyway.
yeah, feel the feels and,
Yeah.
and do it anyway. And just take that time for yourself. It's the most important gift that you can give yourself, because that comes back to that heart space, self-love, self-forgiveness as well, right? Oh, there's so much we could talk about.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. It's been beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for such a delicious conversation. And so many themes and so many great experiences and tips came out for that. Overall, this concept of being you, I mean, we're always just us, who we are in the moment, but it's how we relate to being able to relax in just being the person we are, without having to put on any airs and graces, loving ourselves unconditionally. It's a work in progress. It goes up and down. Don't beat ourselves up for not feeling like that on a particular day, but gradually, we've all been on that path. So this conversation will be continuing next month in December, and looking forward to seeing who wants to join again, or new faces. And I'll hand back over to Chris May to just wrap up. Is it? Yeah.
Thank you, Jennylee, for this incredible wisdom circle. I've been really listening a lot, especially for someone who has been people pleasing most of my life. So I really learned a lot from everyone, especially from our speakers for today, Sallyann, Dawn, Joanne, Denise, Sharon, Laura, and Nikita. Thank you so much for sharing your tips, especially the tips at the end. Thank you so much. And for everyone who is watching, do reach out to all of these incredible women. Their links will be in the description. I'm very sure it will be life-changing for everyone. And while you're there, do check out Sacred You and all the events that we are offering. We do have panel discussions coming up. Tomorrow, Dawn is facilitating a panel discussion. So looking forward to that. So visit us at sacredyou.love. We do have more events coming up. And yeah, see you next time on our Wisdom Circle. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you.